Good morning, guys. Yesterday, me and my wife went over to Springfield, Ohio for the yearly Springfield Antique Show and Flea Market Extravaganza that they have over there at the Clark County Fairgrounds. Now, this is held twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall. And basically, it's a gathering of antiques, crafts, collectibles, electronics, you name it, it's over there. If you can't find it on the fairgrounds, it must not exist, I swear. There's just tons and tons of stuff. We left the house yesterday morning at about 6:30 and got over there about 20 till 7. It's just a little over an hour east of me between where I'm at in Columbus. And we didn't leave last night till almost 6 o'clock because we stopped at another big antique mall called the Heart of Ohio over along Interstate I-70 before we come home. But it was a wonderful day. Spent way too much money, had a lot of fun, met a lot of cool people, and talked some radio with a few guys, and it was an awesome time. If you ever get a chance, this goes on this weekend, which was May 17th through the 19th, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's still going on today from 9 to 4, and they also have one in the fall from September 20th to the 22nd at the fairgrounds there too. It's just like the one we went to yesterday. But basically what I brought home is the whole bench full of stuff you see here. A whole truckload of stuff yesterday, from tubes to radios to, oh, you name it, I'll show you individually. There's all kinds of stuff. Some of this equipment, 3 pieces of this equipment actually started out local in the town where I live, got sold after the guy passed, and wound back up in my hands right here in the town where the guy used them at. So I think that's kind of a neat turnaround. Me and another guy was talking the other day about vintage equipment and radios and such, how many times that it will change hands before it actually lands in a permanent or somewhat permanent home. And he says, I don't think that ever happens, you know. It just constantly is being sold and traded and upgraded and passed along to the next user to get as much usefulness out of it that they can. So let me get some stuff moved around here and we'll go through some of this stuff. A lot of neat, amazing stuff. I need some input on some of it because I'm not sure exactly what some of it is. Looking for parts for some of it. So let me dig a stool out. I'll show you each piece of this this compilation here one by one. This is going to be a long video. I apologize. It might be boring to some, but if some of you are interested, you'll definitely stick around. Now, the first item I come up across here yesterday morning was this Traveler Model 5170 AM broadcast clock radio. This is a tube chassis, and it's probably from the early 1950s. Now, the clock motor does work. This thing is unrestored. The cabinet's in fair shape. It could be refinished fairly easy. A little bit of damage on the corner that some wood filler couldn't fix up pretty decent. You have a volume control. This is for tuning, and either the dial cord has went south or something else is damaged inside. You can manually tune it by just gently turning the tuning capacitor via the outside indicator. What we have over here is an on-off for the radio, or an automatic for the alarm clock to turn it on. This is how you set your alarm. You pull it out and it'll set this inner pointer. Or you have a sleep switch from 0 to 60 minutes. Now, on the back of this, as any 1950s alarm clock has, we have our accessory appliance plug. We have an on-off switch for the radio. And here is our clock set stem coming out the back. Now, this is basically just a 5-tube chassis. It does not have a tube layout on it. I have some alarming concerns about this radio. We'll turn it on and let it warm up, because I think it's another one of these silver mica disease sets that we're going to have trouble with from now on, because when I peek in the back I see automatic IF cans sticking up off the chassis. Bad sign. As you can tell, we got a little bit of electrolytic hum. It ain't real bad. But when we tune through the dial, we can't even get 700 WLW out of Cincinnati. Nothing. So that one's going to need capacitors and a good checkout. Really surprised that the clock works. This is one of the few Telecron movements I've come across that first thing you plugged it in, it took right off. Usually you got to tweak these a little bit and oil them and give them a little TLC and it'll take right off. But this one, it took off on its own. Power cord's in decent shape. This is an original. Somebody's replaced it. It's still pretty pliable. It ain't all cracked and busted up. But there's a look at my first find yesterday, a Traveler 5170 clock radio. Not but a couple booths down on the other side of the fairgrounds, where I just picked up that Traveler radio app, I come across this Channel Master portable. I've had very good luck with these Channel Masters. They're awesome performers. They need very little work. Usually it's just standard capacitor replacement. They use these electrolytic capacitors that are plastic outer cased, and a lot of times they'll split and leak. The worst thing is they're built like tanks. You got to tear the whole thing apart circuit board wise to get in there and change those capacitors. This is a model 6512 Channel Master 8 transistor 2-band radio. Band 1 is standard AM broadcast and band 2 is shortwave. This is a black version. They also had a red version, just like my 6518s. This uses 8 transistors, 2 diodes, and 1 thermistor. And I got everything with this set, including the box, which is in pretty sad shape. I love this original literature that would have come with this radio. Brand new. That's it. Throw it on the floor. It's easier that way. That shows a little few features about this radio. And on the back you have more specifications, including accessories. This uses a 1 9-volt battery for power supply, and you got your shortwave band. You have a full schematic, which I'll have to blow up on the printer. You have your antenna circuit, and you have your layout internally of the transistors, diodes, and other internal components. And the Channel Master Corporation, Ellenville, New York. And this is model 6512, probably circa 1961, I'm guessing. And it comes in its leather case, which is in awesome shape. You had a option of using an external antenna that screwed in right here via that jack on top. It measures about 38 inches long when fully extended. I think the book says it's 8 sections. It's a huge antenna, and it's for increasing the shortwave reception. Now on the side you also have a jack right here, and that's for another external antenna if you choose to use it. And over here on this side you have your top dial, which is your tuning. Bottom dial is your volume, and you have 2 headphone outputs. And then on the front you have your broadcast band, which is set for now. You flip the switch to the other side and you have shortwave. Let me set the camera down. I'll show you what this unit looks like outside of its case. Case is in awesome condition. The stitching is all there. Nothing's tore up. It's a very nice, very handsome looking unit. And this is a 8 transistor deluxe is what they consider this to be. It's not scratched. The case is in good shape. Take the screw out of the back to get to your battery. Another nice thing about this radio that you hardly ever see along with these sets is the original earphones in their little leather cases. I'll open one of these up and show you guys what they look like. Cases are again in perfect condition. The stitching's not all messed up on them. I don't think this thing was used very much. And here's your little earphone. It's not much. With the same things in the other case too. Here's your Channel Master 90-day free warranty replacement. And that's it. The box is, like I said, the box is kind of neat. It's in rather sad shape though. But another piece of vintage American radio history saved yesterday, folks. And this whole thing, I'm proud to report, was very cheap. $5 is all the guy wanted for it. I about flipped. I thought at first I seen it. He wanted $50 for it, but it was $5. So I snatched that up in a heartbeat. And this guy also had Beatman schematic books in perfect condition. I didn't pick any of them up. I thought they were kind of expensive, because if I wanted them, I would have wanted them all. He had them from 1946 clear up to 1960, and he was selling them as a set for $10 a piece, or you could buy the whole set for, I think it was around $100, and I didn't have that kind of cash on me yesterday. I would have bought it, but with everything else I brought home, that would have broke the bank more than what it already was broken. So here's a look at a Channel Master 2-band AM shortwave model 6512 from 1961 8-transistor radio. One more thing to pass along I didn't mention in this video. This unit does need a recap. What you basically get right now is white noise. Probably can't hear that at all on the camera, but you just get some hissing. The volume's very low. Reception is very poor. Last night I could get WLW on it very, very quietly, but you could hear it. It wasn't distorted, it just didn't have no volume to it. So I want to say that this unit will need recap. The capacitors are bad. The next booth I come across, I found a whole box of old radio tubes. I'm talking stuff out of the 20s and 30s and new old stock Sylvanias, still in their boxes, never been out. There was probably about 40 tubes here. The guy wanted $25 a piece, and I know some of these are worth at least that per tube. Some of them are common, some of them are some odd stuff. A 14R7 Sylvania. This one's marked old. It's a 33, number 33 RCA. This one's a GE number 57. Just tons and tons of tubes. Really nice guy, very knowledgeable. He was from up the East Coast around New Jersey. Again, more Sylvania new old stock. 12K8. And in that same booth, I had to finally make a trip to the truck. I had too much stuff. We had to go and dump some stuff. I come back because the guy was talking to me, and he had this. And it's going to need some work, but the case is absolutely gorgeous on it. It's a purple, like a mottled color. I don't know if that's how you properly pronounce it. It's got the swirl in it. And let me set this over here where we don't get so much reflection in the background. You might be able to see it a little bit better on the stool. And this is a General Electric. I'm not sure of the model on it because part of the tag is missing. But isn't that pretty? It's not brown, it's purple. I've never seen one like this before. I've seen a few of these sets before. Okay, it does have the model on it. This is a 515F. This is a 5-tube chassis. Again, we have our plug on the back for our appliance. We have a radio on-off switch and our stem to set the telecron movement. Electronics Park General Electric, Syracuse, New York. I'm going to polish this one up. I bet this one's going to be a pretty unit. I've seen a few of these like this, and what caught my eye about it was this blue back-faced clock. I'd seen that before. I actually offered a guy $30 for one of these a while back. His wife passed, and I come back to make another offer, and she said, "Oh, I got some guy looking at it, giving me a whole line of crap about it," so I just passed on it. The clock does not work on this particular one. It's not running. The volume control is stuck, and actually somebody has twisted it hard enough they tore the splines out of the knob, so that part's going to need work. Your tuner is right here on top. This is for tuning. And I had this powered on for a little bit last night, and it's needing filter capacitors. But other than that, everything is clean. I haven't had the chassis out to take a look at it. I imagine it's all original. This WLW will come in. It's wanting to play, it just needs filter capacitors. So, there's a look at a General Electric 515F. Probably from the early 50s, mid-50s, somewhere in there. Very nice radio. I'm really excited to have this one. This was one of my finds of the day. I know it ain't much, just a plastic tube radio, clock radio. To me, I like it. It's a very unique color. But wait, there's more to come. So I wandered around a little bit more, and I come around a corner, and there's a guy here who had a couple pieces of Heathkit test equipment. What he had here, which I bought off of him, is a visual signal tracer. Visual auroral signal tracer, I should say. I don't have a model number for this. This was probably built in kit form, and I'm pretty sure I'm missing the test leads, being there wasn't nothing supplied to me. And maybe that was something I can get online. I don't know. I have to look this up. There's no model number. I have to take it apart and see if there's any identifying stickers or anything like that inside, or anything that might have a model or something to identify it by inside. But he had this, and he had a signal generator. And if it wasn't for the fact that I'd already bought that RF generator off of Banderson here last week, I would have probably picked up that Heathkit. He was asking $25 for this, but he went ahead and let it go for $20 because he thought that this also went with this. Now, this is a Heathkit branded, okay? This is ICO branded, and you can't read it because this whole top is somebody's painted over it for whatever reason. This is an ICO battery eliminator accessory filter, model 1065. And I looked this up online this morning. I can't find any information about it, but it has an in and an out voltage and an input. This is your input side, this is your output side. It also has these two things that go across the positive and negative. I don't understand exactly what that does, but it is heavy. There's no identifiers on it except for what it says there across the front. Anybody that can identify that, I'd be wonderful. It'd be wonderful if you could tell me what this thing exactly did or what it was for. I don't know if it has a big transformer inside. That thing probably weighs about 10 pounds. It's fairly heavy. The Heathkit, as far as I can tell, everything works. I had it on last night. I just powered it up to see if the eye tube would work, which is down here. Takes a few minutes to come up. I was hoping the eye tube would work on this because some of them can be fairly expensive to replace. and everything seems to respond. You can see the eye tube is responsive when you make that crackle around. Has high gain on and off. Your speaker you can turn that on or off. This is your gain control from 10 decibels up to 100. You have an audio, I don't know if that's an input or an output. You have an RF connection. You can flip this multi-position switch for tracer, noise, or watt meter. And of course your level tube. You have a watt meter load plug. Looks like a standard plug-in. Watts wise, you can put from 40 to 500 watts. You have outputs for B plus and two on the outside say P. I'm not sure exactly what that means. P, B plus, and P. You have an output for your transformer, and then you have a field voice coil speaker output. Neat little piece of equipment. I'm not sure when that was, probably 60s I'm guessing. Thought it'd be a useful addition to the shop. Again, along with this particular piece and this particular piece, if anybody can pass along any information, that'd be wonderful. Here's another neat little portable I picked up yesterday. This is an RCA Victor, and it kind of has this alligator skin look about it. Plastic. And the neat thing about this radio, it kind of reminds me of my Motorola I have upstairs, is that your front pops open. Of course your antenna's in the lid, and it has your power switch right here that shuts the radio off when you close the lid. Here's your volume control, and here's your tuner. Very basic, very simple. If we flip this around, I'll give you a internal view. Now this unit is all original. Here we are internally. It takes a 67.5 volt B battery and a 1.5 volt A battery for the tube filaments. All the capacitors are original wax paper capacitors. Here's our tuning condenser, tuning capacitor. There's the 4 tubes. I'm not quite sure why they have rubber bands wrapped around them, unless they had problems with harmonics or something, vibration in them tubes. Made this thing howl or who knows what. And lastly, this is a model 54B3, and it's the AM broadcast only. Serial number B085444, and this uses a IR5, a 1T4, a 1U5, and a 3S4 tube. And again, it's got that alligator skin look on the back. Very nice unit. Picked this one up fairly cheap. They were getting rid of some stuff and they really wanted to get rid of it and not haul it back home. This is $10. Now, I mentioned earlier I talked to some pretty interesting people over there in Springfield yesterday. Talked radio with a couple of guys and talked to this fella here I bought this stuff off of. His name was Ken. And Ken used to run his own repair business from 1968 to 1986. And when all the solid state stuff started to come in more strongly versus tube, he got out of the business. He just didn't want to deal with all that kind of stuff. And I'm sure that happened quite a bit. But what Ken has, and I told you this story at the beginning of the video, was equipment that was bought in my local hometown from a fellow that had passed away that owned his own shop, and after he died a lot of his stuff went to auction and whatnot. And Ken had bought some of this stuff, took it to Springfield, didn't know what to do with it, and his wife said, well, take it to the show, see if you can sell some of it. Sure enough, you know, he found a sucker like me to come over and buy it, and didn't take much arm bending, trust me. And I brought it back to where I live at, and it's back in its hometown again. So it's an amazing story. The trips of equipment stuff, like I said before, does any of this stuff really ever have a permanent home? Some of it yes, some of it no. But what we have in front of us here is a night resistant substitution box. And this is for resistance, and you can use it for anything from 15 ohms up to 10K times 1. Or you can flip the switch over and go from 15,000 ohms up to 10,000 ohms. I'm sorry, it'd be 10 times 1,000. So would that be a mega ohm, I guess? Not exactly sure. And we have our clip leads, and I even have the night manual that goes with this item. Now on the table beside that, he also had a Midland capacitor substitution box. And this will go from 0.0001 up to 0.22. Again, we have our clip leads and the knob rotates. He wanted 10 apiece for these. He took 15 for both. Pretty decent deal, I thought. Well, then we started talking about some other stuff this guy had, and parts and whatnot, and he took my name and phone number down and said he'd give me a call because he has an RCA VTVM that's senior volt-ohmist that he's wanting to get rid of, that had been totally rebuilt, sent back to RCA, recalibrated, retested. He said according to the guy it belonged to, it cost him more to have it recertified and realigned than it did brand new, because he went through factory specs, everything was redone on the thing to a T. He didn't tell me what he wanted for it. I'd like to have that if he doesn't want a mint for it, so he said he'd give me a call sometime in the next week and let me know. And he had all kinds of stuff up there. Reel-to-reels, record players, test equipment, you name it, it was there. He had a brand new set, I don't remember the name of them. They were a 5-watt walkie-talkie, brand new in the box, had never been used, mint condition. We fired them up, we were out on the fairgrounds talking to each other. I didn't know this guy from Adam, you know. I had a fun time. My wife, she wandered off other places, and I stood there, I talked to Ken for probably an hour. I had an awesome time. Well, we went back in the back of his booth where them walkie-talkies were at, and I said, "You got a tube tester back here?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "It belonged to the same guy that all this stuff belonged to." He's like, "I haven't had anybody looking at it." He had $45 on it. He's like, "I'll make you a hell of a deal on that, being you bought that other stuff. I'll give you a rock bottom price." "Alright, well, what are you thinking?" He said, $30. I said, "I probably shouldn't, but I could use a tube tester because I'm not exactly sure what's going on with all the grandpa stuff yet. There's things in the works. Eventually I will get it. Who knows how much longer it'll be, but this will get me by in the meantime." This is a wood-clad Superior Model 450 tube tester. And the Radio Museum puts these between 1946 and 1947. But the one that they show is a vinyl-clad case. This one is actually wood. Dovetail joints in the corners. Solid wood case and compartment. I mean, it's not veneer, it's actually solid wood. Very nice case, excellent condition. Leather handle still there. Take a look over the unit. This thing will test everything from 4-pin large base tubes down to the miniature base ones, and even 8-pin tubes. And we have our grid cap connection. We can test tubes from 1.4 volts clear up to 117. We could give it a load test. Your circuit selector, you can adjust this thing for line voltage, condition, leakage. You can hook up headphones for noise tests. You have a high-low filter selector, which on the high position at this current setting you can test 2 volts. In the low position on this current setting it'll test 1.4 volts. You can do a quality test, which shows the emission life of the tube on the meter. You can flip it over to leakage and it'll light up the lights, the neon lights down here, and tell you the condition of the tubes. This button's kind of interesting. High-low primary. And what this thing does, designed from the factory, this thing was designed to run on 115 volts continuous. Superior, they must have been kind of smart when they started doing this stuff, because they realized that line voltages might vary from place to place, as it does now, you know. So what they did with this item is they tell you to set it to 117 volts, go to line adjust, select high, and what you'll do is rotate your knob until it comes up to where it says line adjust right here in the center of the meter. Then you know that this thing's calibrated to your line voltage in your area. And if it's high, it doesn't read right, you'll flip it over to low. You'll dial that right in where it belongs. Once that's there, you leave that switch alone, and you can go back to testing your tubes as you would in a normal fashion. Another neat thing that this thing has, I didn't realize till I read the manual, the tube chart there, the index, is that you could also test capacitors on this. Now you can't test electrolytics. You can just test small value capacitors. You have a positive and a negative, and it'll show the value of those on the meter. Like I said, this is Superior Instruments, New York. We have the book here. It tells what everything does. We have the value charts for tubes. Not everything is on this. The guy I bought this off of, Ken, said I could probably get online, look this up, and maybe find a more current tube chart, because a lot of the little miniature base ones here are not on this tube chart. So I'll have to do some digging around. All the large ones, the old ones, are on this thing. This was a nice find. This was my jewel of the day besides that purple General Electric radio. This was awesome. I was glad to find this. It's got a nice home. It works. It's not been restored. It's 100% original. The only thing that bothers me is I noticed that no matter what tube that I tested, unless they were bad and they tested down in here, mainly tested between 60 and 80% of its life, be it a large 4-pin tube or a miniature 7-pin tube or 5-pin tube or whatever these are. It would only test about between 60 and 70%. I could never get nothing no higher there. So I'm thinking maybe, being it's original, maybe there's some capacitors in there. It's getting leaky and it's getting kind of weak. So we'll have to tear it apart and do a recap on it. But for now it works. And that's all I'm going to ask of it. It's tired. It's probably at least 60 years old. So it's got a new home. And lastly for the day, all this stuff was bought in a couple of pop can flats for 20 bucks. Some of this stuff is paid for that easily, but some of the stuff I'm not sure exactly what I'll do with, because I'm pretty sure, even though it's new old stock, never been used, it's probably bad. I can't say that 100%, but from what I hear from other people, they might be, but we'll find out. But basically, I got a whole flat of tubes here and some other stuff. But a lot of these I think are TV tubes, because they're 6 AW8As, 6 EW6s, 6 JD6, a 1V2, 6X8. Here are these are radio tubes, 12 DE8s. All those are tongue soles, 5 of them. Here we have a variable composition. This is a switch, I think. New old stock in the box. Here we have some TV knobs. Some kind of a slider. That looks kind of modern, to be honest with you. This says that it's a capacitor. This is where I need a tripod for my camera. Mount it overhead and show everybody. And that is what's in here. This is a new old stock 50 microfarad, 150 working volt DC capacitor. Brand new, never been used. More than likely bad. A lot of those will dry up over the years. Now this fellow must have been an RCA dealer, because that's what a lot of these tubes are RCA. 6 GM6s, there's a whole thing of those. 2 AV2s, 6 JU8A, 6KZ8, 6KT8. There's a bunch of these 6EW6s. There's a whole mess of them in here. I'll have to sort these out. More TV knobs down in there. 6 CL3s. There's another control knob. That kind of looks just like these, but it's chrome on the tip. What have we here? The big jobby. Wow, brand new. 6EL4A. Never been used. So the guy was selling these for $1 a piece, or make offer. For $10 he gave me the whole box. That's one flat. The second flat is nothing but component parts. Minus this. I don't go with it. A lot of this stuff is record player parts, control knobs. Here's some RCA silicon rectifiers. This was some kind of installation kit. Somewhere in here I've seen a brand new, yeah, here it is, transistor, never been used, brand new in the box. Idler wheels for record players. I've got a bunch of them. That's what all this whole stack right here on the end is. Idler wheels for record players. Record player pickups. Here's another transistor. This is all record player pickups back here. Here's some audio output transformers, 12-volt lamp assemblies, more pickups. This is a power supply board for an RCA TV. Here's more idler drive wheels, screws. Here's a head for a tape deck. And all these are the things that I'm concerned about being bad. These are static crystal cartridges, brand new in the box. Except for one. One's an Electro Voice. But they are a 64TS, a 164, 310-7, 470s, 76 TSB. This is an old one. Somebody's used that one and replaced it. Brand new in the box capacitor, or in the pack I should say, capacitors, 150 microfarads to 2000 volts. Here's a brand new old stock, I think it was this box, Philco knob, a variable knob that's never been used. Got spider webs on the bottom. Shows you. And there's another one, potentiometer. That one's not quite right. That looks like it should have something with it, but maybe that's the part out of a knob in the center. So there you go. There's what happened yesterday. I got one more thing to show you. This was all bought at the fairgrounds before we went to the antique mall. Tons and tons of stuff. Good thing I took the truck. And lastly, here's the last thing picked up yesterday on our trip over to Springfield. I paid way more for this than what I want to admit, but I thought it was cool. I needed one. These things are kind of hard to come across anyway, at least in this part of the country, unless you want to pay an arm and a leg for one. This is an RCA tube caddy. Now I looked at another one that was a Zenith, and they wanted about $8 less for it than this one. It was much smaller, and it was in pretty rough shape compared to this one. The hardware looked excellent on that compared to this one. This one they're kind of rusty. The corners are kind of... It's been used, you know, don't get me wrong, it's been used. But the other one, the Zenith one I should say, the corners have been pulled apart. Somebody had been really rough on it and had been smashed, I think. This one's in pretty good shape. There's a few modifications. Somebody's fixed it obviously over the years. It's like a big fishing tackle box, doesn't it? I figured this would give me plenty of room for now, being I've got some other tubes and stuff down in the shop. Let me put all my new large base tubes in there, all this little small stuff laying here down on the bottom, and maybe a few other items in there to kind of keep track of some stuff. So I'll include some stills into this video. You guys can get some up close views of a few of these items. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. It was rather lengthy. And there'll be, as they say in the business, more to come later.